Collective. I have been working pretty hard on trying to get this download, this big giant download of timey-wimey stuff that is going on, and I have gotten to 8 pages already, and so my guides were like, just start, keep the writing part, but just start, so that way people can at least get the beginning of the download. So I have a cheat sheet that I will be sharing in just a second, but I think we are starting a Google Doc with me and Joniki and the Woo Woo Bus, and we are going to start talking in some Zooms on Sundays. It's going to be like an open forum, and then everyone can throw their stuff in the Google Doc. So I think I'll do that. I think I'll add this this word key in there as well, just so if you're watching this and you want to go back and have that word key up, you can, but I will also show it to you now. So please feel free to take a screenshot of this. My guides have asked me to use Harry Potter as a reference, and these are going to be the parts of the story that I've had to use code words on. And with that, I'm going to tell you the story of how Draco Malfoy saved time. Once upon a time, there was a wizarding family called the Malfoys, and they were in possession of a magical device called a time turner, which allowed them to travel to many places and times. This magical family, for most of their existence, used the time turner to achieve happiness, abundance, without harm. And this time turner allowed them to visit places and times to gain understanding. However, in the not too distant past, this time turner found itself in the hands of an extremely industrious member, Frederick Malfoy. Now, Frederick found himself moving to the New World to seek fortune and notoriety, and found himself drawn to the dwarves mining gold. Frederick, being the shrewd man that he was, didn't want to dig for gold with the dwarfs. No, he was going to find a way to exploit the dwarf population to allow these dwarfs to draw all the gold from the ground and give him the riches without the hard labor of finding it. So Frederick set up a business which sold beautiful dwarf women's alone time to the dwarf miners. And he drew money away from the dwarves and gambling establishments as well. Because as we know, the house always wins. But as it turns out, even the House of Malfoy didn't win against the government, and because Frederick had built his establishment on protected lands and his exploitation of the dwarf peoples was harmful to the entire community, the government forced Frederick to close. But alas, Frederick had acquired so much gold during the time he operated the House of Malfoy that he and his wife went back home to Germany to enjoy their wealth and live amongst other pure-blooded wizards. No man lives forever, and when the time came to pass on the time turner to Frederick's son, Freddy, the desire to conquer and make even more of a name for himself and amass even more riches was born. So Freddy decided to move back to the New World and established a business of building single wizard family homes and apartment buildings to help Aurors during the worldwide Wizarding War of 1940. But much like his father, Freddy took advantage of the disadvantaged populations, such as Muggle-born wizards, and was investigated by the Wisengamot in 1954 and again in 1966. Now, because Freddy was a big picture thinker and the steward of the time-traveling time turner, Freddy found himself rubbing elbows with more and more illustrious crowds along with the wealth he amassed. One day, his networking even found him crossing paths with the Death Eaters. The Death Eaters are a secret society of very wealthy, pure-blooded wizarding families who established themselves during the Industrial Revolution as titans of the wizarding world. and have been trying to keep control by quietly lining pockets of ministry officials and buying land, businesses, and people's silence in order to get ahead and establish themselves as the invisible monarchs of the wizarding world. Freddy not only fell into this crowd, but he used his time turner to help the Death Eaters further their agenda to rule the world. And not to mention, they all could not stand muggles and muggle-born wizards because they thought it took away magic from the rest of the wizarding community, especially poor squibs who were born pure-blooded with no magic at all. Once Freddy entered the inner circle of the Death Eaters, a most fascinating divine occurrence happened. A Pegasus landed on a Death Eater's property. As soon as the Death Eaters went to investigate, a group of Dementors came upon the Pegasus and drained the creature of all of its magic and joy. And this would allow the Dementors to access the Pegasus magic, which they had been waiting millennia to retrieve. Taken aback by the Dementors, the Death Eaters asked why it was so important to drain the Pegasus of its blood, which the Dementors replied, "This is our next step of our plan, and it means that the world is ready, and we can start reclaiming this land as our own. We have been roaming this land silently since the very first wizard arrived. Our kind was banished from our original lands with the Pegasus. But because we tried to overtake the land and claim all of the magic for ourselves, the Pegasus banished us to a different time and place. But the wizarding world was always their favorite place to watch and help wizards flourish into an advanced civilization. The Pegasus come and check on this planet every millennia or two to ensure everything is okay with the wizards and to nudge them into the right direction. But this time, our kind was ready. We created Quidditch, a highly regimented and brutal way of life where people get lost, extremely battered, and sometimes they even die. But wizards have become so obsessed with Quidditch that they cannot look beyond it and recognize when they are being manipulated by us Dementors. This would make the Pegasus come and check in on wizards more often, and all we had to do was wait until we could catch one of the Pegasus, drain its magic, and gain the power to imprison the Pegasus' beloved wizards so we could finally exact our revenge on the Pegasus. This was a lot of information that Freddy didn't quite understand, and to be totally honest, he loved a good Quidditch match. But one thing Freddy was really good at was understanding the base desires of any creature and finding a way to gift those desires in order to gain loyalty and alliances. So Freddy stepped up and asked the Dementors if they wanted to make an alliance. Because the Death Eaters wanted to control the wizarding world too, and they all wanted muggles and muggle-born wizards to suffer, so their goals were aligned. Together, they mapped out a multi-generational plan to infiltrate the Ministry of Magic, purchase as many products and companies as they could to avoid wizards waking up to the truth, and Freddy would use his time turner to ensure that all things went smoothly for this deathly alliance. As it turns out, one time turner wasn't enough to push forward the agenda of the deathly alliance, which is why the Dementors took the magic from the first Pegasus and from the many more Pegasus who came to check up on their missing herd, and used this magic to create tools to help the Deathly Alliance anticipate future uprisings, and allow more Death Eaters to travel in time and help make more alliances and manipulate events to work in their favor. And these tools were called the Marauder's Map and the Pensieve. All right, I'm going to pause there and go to part 2.